Supreme Court of Appeals said that the Constitution is silent on the subject of banks. And so when he took it to the Supreme Court, it was a 9-0 vote that Congress could make banks and that the state could not tax the federal government because that would be kind of ridiculous.
The second time it's happened.
All right, so in sitting Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia once said that the 3 worst Supreme Court decisions of all time were Dred Scott, Roe v. Wade, which is kind of a matter of opinion on how you feel about abortion, and Kelo v. New London, which you probably haven't heard of. It was decided in 2005. The city of New London, Connecticut, in the early 2000s was rather facing somewhat of an economic downturn. Things weren't going well. And so they decided to implement this large-scale economic revitalization plan. And so as part of this, they needed to acquire some property. As you may or may not know, the state and the government, can take property from private citizens using the eminent domain privilege. But according to the Fifth Amendment, the end of the Fifth Amendment says, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So the issue with Kelo v. New London was that they wanted to create some businesses, so they were taking private property from one entity and giving it to another private entity. You'll notice the Fifth Amendment says public use. That doesn't really sound like public use. And so what happened, eventually the decision got to the Supreme Court, and in a 5-4 ruling, they sided with the city of New London, saying that all their takings were just. The decision was characterized by some as just following precedent. There had been an earlier Supreme Court case that decided that eminent domain takings were valid if they were reversing economic blight, so preventing economic blight should theoretically be the same. However, in a rather scathing dissent, Justice O'Connor pointed out that it basically cleared the way for the state to take property from one private entity and give it to another as long as that other private entity paid higher taxes. So it's not hard to envision a world in which the government could seize a church, tear it down, and build a quick shop because quick shops pay taxes, churches don't. Kind of a scary decision. And so we don't really know where it's going to go yet and what the large-scale implications could be. It was only in 2005. We're looking at 6 years since then. Who knows what the long-term repercussions of Kelo could be? Something to think about.
Okay, so obviously it doesn't sound like I did as much research on my case as Nick did, but he stated a whole bunch of facts that is related to his case, which he was supposed to, but it doesn't really affect much. My case was, without my case there would be, the states could tax the national government and then, we wouldn't have a national government anymore because they wouldn't have any money to do anything because the states would tax them and get all their money, so that we'd probably go back to a confederacy or something like that. And if there was no national bank, then there would be a whole bunch of state banks, and then everything would be flip-flopped, and there'd be Kansas bills, and there'd be Nebraska bills, and we wouldn't be able to take anything anywhere and buy anything very easily. It would be really
isn't a national bank. There hasn't been one since Andrew Jackson killed the second national bank in 1832, 16 years after the McCulloch v. Maryland decision. Kind of irrelevant. So the other thing McCulloch v. Maryland established was that the federal government is superior to state governments. Duh, the U.S. is a federal system that's written into the Constitution. McCulloch v. Maryland is probably one of the least important Supreme Court cases of all time. It didn't tell us anything new. Kelo v. Maryland, on the other hand, is a decision that is hotly contested or Kelo v. New London, my bad, okay, is a decision that was hotly contested and is still, pretty heavily debated today. No one really knows what it could mean. It could mean that the government could take your house, tear it down, and sell it to a business. One would think that might be kind of important.